Hello. No. I'm here today to cut that with the upper classes. It was anybody can be anybody, anything. Welcome to another video. My name is Heather, and as always, I'm reading with a vengeance, and I hope you are too. I'm here today with another reading wrap-up, a reading update, if you will. I hope everybody else's reading is going well. I think my reading year is pretty good. I can't complain. I mean, I can, but I won't. Well, maybe I will. Anyways, I hope everybody is reading some good books. We're heading into really a great season for reading books. If you are in a place with really good weather, lots of outdoor reading, poolside reading, beachside reading. Honestly, I can read on a hot rock. But of course, a couple of housekeeping items. If you recall, if you are a regular watcher, I tried to give away this beautiful edition of Grady Hendrix of Witchcraft for Wayward Girls. It is a signed copy. And the person that won, or the person that I drew to win this, never reached out. I guess didn't watch that particular video. Listen, you guys, you have to keep watching. I'm not going to make it easy for you and tag you in the video so that you will know that you won. Luckily, I mean, I had a feeling that this might happen. So I did draw a backup winner. And, oh, where is it? It's here. It's here. Where is it? Oh. Okay. So the next winner, hopefully you're watching, is Shanru de Bush 9047. I'll put it on the screen because I'm pretty sure I butchered that. You are the next winner, hopefully. You're watching. If you are watching, congratulations. My email is down in the box below. Please send me an email with your mailing address and I will get this out to you ASAP. Let's see, what else was I going to talk about? So I got my first negative comment on my video where I talked about getting fired, and I don't really get very many negative comments, thankfully. And when I do, I usually just delete them because I don't like to encourage, back and forth and just that kind of negativity. But this one, I'm not sure yet. I haven't deleted it yet because I thought it might warrant a response, only because it feels really personal. Like, I almost kind of side-eye this particular comment because, I don't know, it looks a little suspect. But anyways, I mean, it was bound to happen. But I will take this opportunity just to say thank you all again for all of your encouragement and support. I really, really appreciate it. Everything is good, and I'm able to look back on that experience with the knowledge that I am in a much better, happier, stress-free place without being surrounded with that kind of toxicity. I know that when you're in it, it's easy to try to balance it like, oh yeah, this is really bad, but I like this. And it never really balances in your favor when you have that kind of environment that you go to every single day. So anyways, thank you all very much for your support. There's no real new news to report, I don't think. Summer's coming up. We don't really have a whole lot of summer plans. My mom is coming to visit. I'm super excited about that. We're going to Houston soon to watch a baseball game and a concert. Neither my husband nor I have been to Houston before. So, hey, if you are in the Houston area or if you know of really cool bookstores in Houston, please give me a shout and let me know where I need to go when we go there. We're going to be there for about 5 days. So that's exciting. I have a few books that I want to talk to you about. I have a ton of books that I want to talk to you about, but I think I'm just going to pare it down to, a reasonable amount to fit in a reasonable length video. And let's just get into it. I'm going to talk about my DNFs first. And let's talk about that unpopular opinion that is on the thumbnail. So I attempted to read I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman. Everybody has been talking about this book, and everybody who's talking about it on Booktube love it. And it just wasn't for me. For me, and at this time, I feel like the ambiguity, the vagueness, the mysteriousness of what's happening, where the characters are and why, it was just too much of the unknown that I'm comfortable with when reading a book. I'm not sure if it was the writing style or if it was just too mysterious and too vague at the beginning that for my comfort, but I just couldn't get into it. And I gave it, I think, 30 pages. It used to be that it was a hard 50 pages before I DNF'd, and no, that's getting less and less. But yeah, I think I gave it 30 pages, and I just was, I didn't know what was really going on or why, really. I wanted to know why. And from what I understand from other people talking about it, those answers come, but I guess I wasn't as intrigued to wait for those answers. If you don't know, this starts off with a bunch of women who are down in like this basement type location, and there are bars. They cannot leave. There are guards, armed guards, and they cannot talk to each other, and they just exist down here. You don't know why. And then I guess a younger girl comes onto the scene and she shakes things up. And I don't even think I got that far of how she shakes things up. I think I met her in the first 30 pages, but we don't really know her significance that early in the book. Anyways, yeah, I gave it a go. This was one of those times, one of those examples where I jumped on the hype bandwagon and was promptly booted off and run over. But yeah, this one just wasn't for me. Maybe it's the translation. I don't know. This one was translated by Roz Schwartz. Interestingly, this one has an afterword by Sophie McIntosh, who I think wrote Cursed Bread, which coincidentally I also DNF'd. So anyways, it's always a bummer when you don't like the book that so many other people enjoyed. That just happens. So many books, so many opinions, so many tastes. The other book that I DNF'd, I picked this one when I did Charlie's from Charlie Brooke Reads. She did a readathon for bowel cancer awareness in April. And one of her prompts was a book with red on the cover. And the book that I picked, which has been on my TBR for a really long time, was The Power. I'm pretty sure most people know about this book. I'm probably going to try to watch the series. I did find the synopsis interesting. I thought that I would like it. It's basically not too distant future, and all the women and girls in the world just spontaneously get this power, and maybe not electricity specifically, but they have the power just by touching somebody to inflict terrible pain and death if they want to. And basically it puts women in power over men, and men become terrified of women. And I really like that whole idea of exploring what the world would be like if, say, the inherent fear of another human being just based on their gender was flipped. What would the world look like? So I was really interested in this. Unfortunately for me, this read too YA for me. There's, again, no shade on YA books. There are YA books out there that I have enjoyed, but when I'm thinking I'm picking up an adult novel, which this is supposed to be, I don't like that YA vibe. That was the trouble with this one. And maybe it was just timing. You never know. And while I have this physical copy, the Audible came up on my Libby app and I tried to listen to it. And I think the narration was okay, but this just didn't work for me, unfortunately. I'll probably watch the series because, again, I like the whole premise, the idea of it. I love Toni Collette. Unfortunately, this did not work for me either. All right, let's get to books that I did enjoy. The rest of the books I'm going to talk about, I really, really liked, and there have been two that I really loved. So we're going from DNFs to really, really like and really loved. So the first book I'm going to talk to you about is Notes on an Execution by Danya Kukafka. This was super, super popular 2 years ago when it came out, and it's been on my TBR ever since. It finally came up on my Libby app. I listened to it. I really enjoyed it. It's easy to say this is about a serial killer, Ansel, who is counting down his days on death row. and he is recounting his past, but it's not about him. It is about 3 of the many women whose lives he has touched, good, bad, or indifferent. One of them is his mom, Lavender. Another one is the twin sister of his wife, Hazel. And then the third one is Safi, who is the police detective who is hot on his trail. There's flashbacks, just how these women were affected by this man. This is really a deep dive on womanhood and what our fascination is with average men who happen to kill and victimize women. And this particular story is how to survive that, and how women survive it, what they do to survive it, what they sacrifice to survive it, and how it changes them. And it was just a really unique approach to the whole serial killer story. I liked the multiple perspectives. I like how you thought it was going down one path and you make a hard left. I want to say, even though I'm not going to talk about it in this video, I will be talking about it soon. I just recently read Bright Young Women by Jessica Knoll, and this is very similar to that. It really embraces and lifts up women who are preyed upon by these nasty individuals. Bright Young Women was exquisitely done, and I'll talk more about it in another video. But this one is very similar to that. This did a very, very good job of that similar treatment of talking about these low-life, unintelligent, non-clever ne'er-do-wells that find the only way they can control anything in their life is by victimizing somebody, by taking advantage of their goodness. I'm getting a little bit off on a tangent, and I don't want to do that. This is a great story. I highly recommend listening to it. Although, if you have a hard time, which sometimes I do, but in this particular instance I didn't. If you have a hard time kind of following dual perspective, maybe pick up the physical copy. But I thought the narration was done really well, and I would definitely recommend this book. The next book I read was The Lion Women of Tehran by Marjan Kamali. I had the stationery shop on my TBR. I still have it on my TBR. I haven't read it yet. I plan to. This one reminds me of The Kite Runner and the other one by Khaled Hosseini about the women. That is very much like The Kite Runner, but with women. A Thousand Splendid Suns. This one reminded me of A Thousand Splendid Suns. And this one follows 2 women, Iranian women, who meet as children. We have Ellie and Homa. And Ellie and Homa are from 2 different classes in society. Ellie goes through actually a couple of phases as a child. Her dad dies, and they go from being very wealthy and prominent in the neighborhood to going and living in a neighborhood that Ellie's mom is quite ashamed of. And that's where Ellie meets Homa. But then Ellie's mom remarries and rises back up in society and wealth. And that changes her relationship with Homa. And then Homa comes from a much more humble class, but their personalities are so different. Homa is charismatic and loud and outgoing and independent. She does and says and wears what she wants without a care of what anybody else thinks. Whereas Ellie, she cares about what her mom thinks, and she kind of has to toe the line with the upper class society. But nevertheless, there is a deep bond with Ellie and Homa. But of course, a betrayal between the 2 as young girls leads to a period of estrangement. The perspective kind of forks off, and you find out what happens to Homa in her life as she grows up, and Ellie as she grows up in her life. And in that diversion of the story with their friendship, you kind of learn about the political landscape of Iran and women's rights. And the Iranian Revolution and its aftermath and how it affects them individually. And then later on in life, there is an incident that brings them together. Of course, you have to read the book to find out what all of that entails. I really enjoy this. I didn't love it as much as the Khaled Hosseini books, but I did like her writing. I will read The Stationery Shop eventually. I did love this story. I listened to it. It was very, very well narrated. I love her writing style. I love the dual perspective. I love the multi-timelines. She just did that very well. Sometimes when you have dual perspective and multiple timelines, it can get a little muddy, but I think she did a really, really good job. And this was heartwarming. I did get a little choked up in some parts. I love stories about friendships between women. And if I didn't mention before, this spans from like the 50s and 60s through the 80s. And you can really see the parallels of the political and social landscape of those decades and now. I thought that was fascinating, and I thought this book was really, really timely. And so I hope more people read this book. I really, really enjoyed it, would recommend. Next book I read, finally, I read The Frozen River by Ariel Lawhon. I am really, really pleased that so many people love this book. This is one of those books that I featured on one of my new books, new releases that are coming out that I'm excited about. And this is one of the few that really, really takes off and gets popular and really good reviews. So I'm really happy about that. If you are unaware, if you haven't read this book, this is based on a real person. This is based on Martha Ballard, who was a midwife in the 1700s. In her time as a midwife, she never lost a mom or a baby, which speaks volumes for her mad skills at the time, considering the resources and the education and knowledge of the time. I think that's pretty impressive. She also kept a very, very detailed daily log, and I think that's where this book stems from. So in this story, a man is found in the river dead, and at first glance it looks like an accidental drowning, but when they pull him out of the river, it looks like he was hanged before he was put in the river. So it is deemed a murder. And then on top of that, it turns out that the murder victim was one of two men who have been accused of rape by a young girl in the town. The second man is a judge in the town. So where Martha comes in the story is because of her medical expertise, she is called to examine the body to find out exactly how he died. And then she's also involved because the girl who accuses these men of rape, I believe, is a patient of hers, or someone in her family is. And so she attempts to try to get to the bottom of what has happened. And being a woman, she's kind of dragged through the mud. She gets a lot of pushback from the men in the town. This book has a lot to say about the oppression of women during that time. For example, a woman could not testify in court without her husband or her father present. That just blows my mind. I enjoyed this. This was a good mystery. This was a good story about a strong woman who finds ways to get around the oppression that she has no control over, to get things done and to do the right thing and to find the truth of the matter. And Martha, wow, what a woman. I mean, she clearly sounds like a hero of her time. I would love to have met Martha. But she, I think, is very well portrayed in this story. I read the afterword, or the author's note. Lots of interesting information in the author's note. I would highly recommend that. I'm pretty sure I listened to this. It was well narrated, but I did, the author's note is included in the audiobook too. So, and then the rest of the information in her author's note is fascinating. So highly recommend this book if you like a good historical fiction, which I do. I wasn't sure how I was going to do with this book because this particular time frame I don't typically read. So I thought this was really interesting. And then also this particular topic, I don't usually read as far as historical fiction. So I was happy I read it. And yes, I would recommend this. And I will be reading other books by this author. The last two books all of the stars, you guys, all of the stars. I want to talk about this one. I just finished this yesterday, but I want to talk about it for two reasons. I want to talk about it because it is fresh in my mind, and I want to tell you about all the feelings. And then the other reason I want to talk about it is a Women's Prize for Fiction long list book. Unfortunately, this was not shortlisted, and it blows my mind that this was not shortlisted. I think a lot of people who read this book are shocked that this was not shortlisted. So Nesting by Roisin O'Donnell. Author is Irish. This takes place in Ireland. The main theme of this book is domestic violence. So keep that in mind if you have any interest in reading this book. Basically, this is about Ciara or Kiara. I think it's Ciara. I'm not sure how you say her name. I did read this physical book. She is a young woman. She's a mother of two young daughters who are 3 and 5, and she is married to an emotionally and psychologically abusive man. And now, just on spur of the moment, she picks up her daughters and a few things while he's in the shower and takes off. And basically, this story talks about how incredibly difficult it is not to leave an abusive relationship, but to stay gone. Specifically in this story in Ireland, where the housing situation is bleak, she ends up living in a hotel for a long time, almost a year, I think. All the things that led her to leave, to pick her life back up again. Just as an example, she's English. Well, I think she's Irish, but she was raised in England, and her mom and her sister are still living in England. So she doesn't have a nearby support system. And that was one of the insidious things about abuse. This was one of the first steps that her husband took to isolate her. So they're living in Ireland away from her family. One by one, her friends drop off because he's constantly making complaints about them. And then he also tells her, she's a teacher by trade, he tells her that she will not be able to teach in Ireland because speaking Irish is a requirement, which was false. And so she is completely and utterly dependent on him. And anyways, so in order to get her life back, she has to break down all of these incredibly hard, fast walls that her husband built up in her own mind against her own self. And let me just tell you, it took me a little over 2 weeks to read this book. It's not even 400 pages. That's a long time for me because it was so stressful. I was so tense. My stomach hurt. My shoulders were tense. I gasped. I held my breath. This was incredibly stressful to read. Okay, I just want to put that out there. I know that everybody's talking about how wonderful this book is, and I agree. It is so good, so well written, but you feel it all. You feel just a taste, which is well enough of what Ciara is going through and how she is feeling, and the frustration and the fear and the terror and the hopelessness and helplessness and lack of control of your own life. Meanwhile, trying to care for her 2 young daughters, and she's pregnant. Oh my God. All of the obstacles that this poor woman, it's very difficult to read, but I highly recommend it. Even more so, you might know somebody who is in this situation, and it's very common for people thinking that they're being helpful to tell somebody, oh, just leave. What's the problem? Just leave. First of all, that is so damaging. We're not going to go down the rabbit hole of what to do and what to say and what not to do and what not to say to a victim of domestic abuse, but this gets into it, and it's done so freaking well. Highly recommend this book. And also this cover. So normally when I read a hardcover, I usually take the jacket off. So this jacket has been in my nightstand drawer the entire time I've been reading this. And then when I finished it, I put the jacket back on and really looked at the cover. And after reading the book, This cover breaks my heart all over again. If you know, you know, okay? Read it. So good. Women's Prize. What the heck are you thinking this needed to be on the short list? What the hell? Of course, I say that having only read one other book on the short list, so take that with a grain of salt. The last book I want to talk to you about, All of the Stars, and it won't be a surprise to you. It certainly wasn't a surprise to me. I've read all of this author's books. I've met him. I love him. This book hasn't even come out, so who knows how long I'm going to have to wait for him to write another one. The book I'm talking about is King of Ashes by S.A. Cosby, and mwah, mwah, mwah. This one has tied for my favorite by this author. My favorite by this author has been Razorblade Tears. Now, that's really not saying much as far as how much I loved all of his other books. I love all of his books. Love them. But Razorblade Tears was the first book I read by this author, and it just, there's something about Buddy Lee and Ike and the whole story, and just freaking loved it. And the dialogue between them, phenomenal. King of Ashes, right up there with it. Absolutely love this book so much. I listened to it. And by the way, if you are on your phone, you know, ordering it or whatever, it doesn't come out until the end of June. So I'm sorry about that. Put your pre-orders in though. I listened to this. I listened to the arc of this, and it was, as all of his books are, narrated by the actor Adam Lazar-White. And that guy was born to narrate these books. He does such an amazing job with the voices and the dialects and just the lilt of that particular area of Virginia and the gangsters. He does such a great job with the narration of S.A. Cosby's books. Just chef kisses all around. So good. I highly recommend, if you are going to read these, well, read it any way you can. But if you have the choice, audiobook is the way to go. Adam Lazar-White is just a genius. Anyways, what is this about? So this takes place in Virginia, as most, if not all, of S.A. Cosby's books do. I think that's where he's from. I think that's where he lives. I don't know, but that's my guess. Anyways, you're following three siblings. You have Roman, Nevaeh, and Dante. And they live in this, well, they were kind of raised in this crappy little town that is basically run by this particular set of gangsters. And anyways, the siblings' father runs the crematory. Is that what you call it? Crematory? Okay, good. I was afraid I was saying creamery, and that's a whole different thing. The father has been in an accident, and he is now in a coma. He was like run off the road, right? And so Roman is the only sibling. He's the oldest brother. He's the only one who's gotten out of that small town, and he is a big-time financial advisor in Atlanta, I believe. And Nevaeh calls him up and says, you need to come home. Daddy's been in an accident. And so he does. And when he does come home, he finds out that it wasn't really an accident, and that his younger brother, Dante, has gotten mixed up with the gangsters of the town, led by the incredibly evil and terrifying Tranquil and Torrent. That's not their real names, but that's what they go by. And let me just tell you, the way that Adam Lazar-White voices these two criminals, it was terrifying. He did, you have to listen to it. It was so good. Anyways, so Roman comes in and he basically says, Dante, we'll fix it. We will pay them the money that you owe them and everything will be fine. And Dante tries to tell him that is not how things run around here. And Roman basically gets his ass kicked, and he has to kind of reconfigure his plan to save his little brother. And he basically tells Tranquil and Torrent, look, I am a genius with numbers and money. I can triple your money. Let me work for you. And the story goes from there. Meanwhile, they are all reminiscing about how their mother left years ago, or she's been missing for a long time and under mysterious circumstances. So they're dealing with that as well. Like Razorblade Tears, the dialogue in here is top notch. I want to reread all of S.A. Cosby's books. Why can't I be a rereader? Why am I the way that I am? My husband asks me that every day. Anyways, one of the things that I really enjoyed about this is there are Easter eggs from his other books. Now, I recognized 2. And I think I was driving when I was listening to this, and I almost had to pull over. I was like, what? Oh my God, this is amazing. I want to say, if I were to guess, I think all of his books are referenced in this book, but I have a terrible memory, so I'm not quite sure, but I know at least 2 were, and it's delicious. Much like his other books, there is a wonderful twist in this book I did not see coming, and it is such a good twist. It's not a gratuitous twist just to have a twist in the book. It is such a pivotal part of the story and who these characters are, and you haven't been able to figure out. I really enjoyed this book and I highly recommend it. So good. Favorite of the month, probably will be the favorite of the quarter. Spoiler alert for my second quarter favorites. All the stars. So that's it. Those are all the books I'm going to talk to you in this video. Have you read any of these books? What did you think of them? I would love to hear your thoughts on these books. Have you read something recently that I need to know about? I love getting recommendations from all of you. Please let me know down in the comments, or you can just say hi down in the doodly-doo. As always, I appreciate all of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for watching and all of your support. I really do love being a part of this community. And I will see you all next time. I'm out.